So I want to read this poem written in 1871 by a woman named Mrs. Edmund Craster. It's called The Centipede's Dilemma. The centipede was happy quite, until a toad in fun said, "Pray, which leg goes after which?" This worked his mind to such a pitch, he lay distracted in a ditch, considering how to run. So tonight's talk is called Getting Out of Your Own Way. So viewing meditation as an expression of your true nature, whatever that's supposed to be. Has anyone ever seen the show Hoarders? That show, it's a great reality show. I was just watching it a few nights ago. And for anyone who doesn't know, everyone knows what a hoarder is. So a hoarder is someone who accumulates things. So their home becomes so filled with stuff that they become paralyzed or trapped by it, by the mess. Now, people sometimes will do this with books. I've seen apartments with stacks and stacks of magazines and books piled everywhere on the floor and tables. I have seen it done with garbage, where people just literally cannot throw garbage away. They just think, when I'm done with this carton of milk, you just chuck it on the floor and I can't throw it out because for some reason, I can't let go of it. So people accumulate all kinds of stuff. So when I watched that show Hoarders the other night, I was thinking about the ways that we hoard in our brains. How many ways do we accumulate stuff or garbage we don't need anymore? How filled are we with everything that ever happened to us, thinking that's what defines us? I know for a very long time I used to hold on to a few incidents that happened when I was maybe 5 years old, when I was in kindergarten. And I held on to them so tightly that it influenced the way I behaved and what I thought of myself and how I felt about myself intellectually and otherwise. So really probably all of 5 minutes of my life, I decided that was my script and that was it for me. And I really did this for years. Until I realized that's just because that happened doesn't make it sum total of who I am or what I am. So I was hoarding that experience. I couldn't throw it away. So the problem with having a space that's crowded, let's say physically speaking, right? It's hard to navigate around. It's hard to get around because there's too much stuff around. I know a mother who once was so frustrated by her teenage son's messy room. There was just clothing. There was clothing everywhere, which isn't that unusual for a teenager. He wasn't necessarily a hoarder. That she took a shovel one day and shoveled a path from the door to his bed just to prove a point. You know, every other aspect of nature is very different than us. If you look at a pond, nice sunny day out, you're outdoors, you look at a pond. Whatever you're looking at in a pond is what's reflected overhead. So if there are trees towering over the pond, it reflects the leaves. If it's windy, it reflects leaves blowing around in the wind. If a bird flies by, it reflects a bird flying by. Imagine what it would be like if you're looking at this pond and you see an airplane flying by, but when you look up, there's no airplane flying by. Wouldn't that be odd? So, while a pond can reflect clearly whatever's happening over it, we tend to reflect on what's already happened or what might happen. So, a pond wouldn't reflect an airplane that isn't there. But our brains have a tendency to constantly reflect on our experience rather than simply experiencing our experience directly. That's the difference between us and every other aspect of nature. Nature meaning trees, nature meaning animals, nature meaning the weather, the seasons. Like today, summer knew that it's summertime. At 7:09 p.m., it turned to summer. No big deal. It didn't have to think about it. It didn't have to, make an appointment in its iPhone. It just turned, because that's what it does. It's all happening. Everything's mapped out. We even know what time seasons change and what day. Today is the longest day of daylight of the year, and then from tomorrow on, the days get a little shorter and a little shorter and shorter. So that's just what nature does. That's nature's shtick. But we humans, it's not so simple. We're always stumbling. We're always kind of second guessing. We're asking for opinions. So if you look even at animals, when a lion is hungry and it sees a nice looking horse, guess what it's going to do? It's going to go after that horse and devour the horse. He's not going to wonder about his diet or how many calories are in a horse or worry about the horse's family. The lion does what lions do naturally, no thinking. So the more we try to operate from our thinking minds, the more trouble we get into. It's like trying to get around someone's house if they're a hoarder. You just can't really do it. You're constantly having to step over things and navigate your way around and clear piles, or you move one pile of junk from this spot to the next to make some room for yourself. And that's what happens when our minds are filled with concepts and ideas about who we are or about our experience. Most of the way, if you've ever been to a stage where they put colored gels over the lights, so they put like a red gel for the scene that's supposed to be kind of sexy and everything's red, and they put a blue gel over it and everything's kind of blue. And that's what we're always doing to our experience, but we don't really know that. We just mistake everything we sense and perceive as reality, when in fact everything's being made right here. Our mind is what's making reality, moment after moment. For some reason, it's very appealing to cling to some idea of ourselves, and that becomes a source of security. There's something comforting about just saying, I'm this kind of guy, or I'm that kind of woman. Even if it doesn't make sense anymore, there's something we like about that certainty, which isn't really certainty. It's actually like being trapped. It's like being trapped in an idea. One of the three qualities of existence that the Buddha taught about was non-self. So it doesn't mean that you're not really sitting here, this is all just a dream. It's not really quite that. But it means there's nothing so solid and separate about you that you can point to and say, that's me. That's it. That's not going anywhere. It's not going to change. That's why I said as we were sitting, I invited you to just observe your moment-to-moment experience, even like how the quality of light changed, how different it is now when most of you walked in here. How the temperature's changed, how you're physically, how you feel different. Constantly, moment after moment after moment after moment. But when we try to concoct this idea of who we think we are, it's like we're trying to freeze time. So what we're doing is we want to do that to bring about some kind of comfort and security, but it doesn't work. But we keep doing it anyway. It's kind of strange when you think about it. It's like trying to freeze a river in time. You know who Quentin Crisp is? He's an author, British author. About 7 or 8 years ago. So he once said, "It's no good running a pig farm badly for 30 years while saying, 'Really, I was meant to be a ballet dancer.'" By then, pigs will be your style. Don't you love that? We all have this kind of idealized version of who we are. And we try to put that out, or pretend to be that, or keep telling ourselves that's what we are. Even if in fact it doesn't even match reality in the least. And as if we're not okay enough as we are anyway, which, by the way, we are. So once the Zen master walks into the meditation hall, and she sees her student sitting there very rigidly like this. And she looks at him and says, "What are you doing?" And she says, "Well, I'm meditating so I can become a Buddha and I can become awakened. I'm going to become enlightened, so I'm meditating really hard." So she said, "Okay." She sat down next to him and she took a tile out of her pocket and she started polishing it. And he looked at her and said, "What are you doing?" She said, "I'm going to make a mirror out of this tile so I can see myself." And he said, "Well, how are you going to make a mirror by polishing a tile?" She said to him, "Well, how are you going to become a Buddha by sitting in meditation?" So as Ellen DeGeneres says, my point is, and I do have one, if you don't remember anything else I'm saying to you tonight, the point is you're already fine as you are right now. That was the whole point of the Buddha's life, basically. Aside from diagnosing dukkha, or discomfort, and how to end that, his whole thing was letting you know that you all have a true, pure, perfect, complete nature as you are right now. There's nothing to fix. Nothing's wrong, actually. So the problem is that we operate based on two erroneous assumptions. So one is there's something wrong with me and I need something from outside of me to fix it or to fill that gap, fill that hole. That's mistake number one. And mistake number two is there's something outside of me I could thank for my happiness or blame for my dissatisfaction. So realizing that those two things are untrue is a good starting point. You know, I love those award shows like music awards or sometimes sports figures. They win a big game or they win a big award and they thank Jesus for it. Like as if Jesus cared about their stupid, bad pop album, right? Or their stupid football game. But then for everyone else who lost, and more people lose than win these things, do they get to blame anyone? But that's how we've been trained. And it doesn't make sense. If you just consider it, it just doesn't make sense. I'm going to read a quote from the Bloodstream sermon, which most of you probably haven't heard before. "So beyond this mind, you'll never find another Buddha. To search for enlightenment or nirvana beyond this mind is impossible. The reality of your own self-nature, the absence of cause and effect, is what's meant by mind. Your mind is nirvana. You might think you could find a Buddha or enlightenment somewhere beyond the mind, but such a place doesn't exist." Can you buy that? Or entertain the idea that maybe that's true? Because it is hard to believe. It's a very powerful little paragraph. So there's no need to search for happiness somewhere else. There's no need to blame anyone or anything else for our experience of this life or our perception of ourselves. And recognizing that is huge. It doesn't always happen overnight. At least starting with this idea that, you know what, maybe there's something to that. there's something to this Buddha nature thing. There was this woman, actually she was a Zen master too. She just died a few weeks ago, 85. She was born in 1927. Her name is Daehang Sunit. She was a Korean nun who started her own order. And I've been in communication with one of her students who's, I believe, American-born guy, probably my age range more or less. And sometimes we just email, because I love this person's writings. She wrote a wonderful book called No River to Cross, Trusting the Enlightenment That's Always Right Here. Very good teaching. I suggest you check it out. And she always stresses what she calls your foundation. Basically your Buddha nature, your true nature. So her whole thing was, you have this foundation that's strong and knows what to do, and all you have to do is rely on it. You know, Song San, who started the lineage I'm part of, Zen Master Song San, his whole thing was just keep a don't know mind. Just only don't know and go forward. That was his way of saying it. What attracted me to Zen or Buddhist practice in the first place was that it's not really belief-based, right? So no one's asking you to believe a bunch of stuff that seems outlandish or inconceivable. There are some aspects that might need to have some faith or belief, not as much in Zen. The one thing that does help to have faith in, and this, there's one thing, is you do have to start with some faith that you do have this nature. It helps if you have even a little faith, even if you want to believe it, that's a good starting point. Even if you don't think you have a perfect and complete nature, if you could maybe allow yourself to let that take sprout in you, to let that grow in you, that's fine. Start there. Because that's what's going to help you get out of your own way all the time. We have to reframe the way we look at practice, the way we look at meditation. I bet you most of us came here, I don't mean here today, but came to practice or IDP or wherever you go, because something was wrong. Something was messed up and it needed to be fixed. Like, I didn't turn to practice because life was peachy. I didn't come here because I really had it all together and I was happy all the time. So what brought me to practice was a sense that I need some fixing and something's wrong with me. What practice over several years has helped me realize is that I was operating from the wrong reference point. So now meditation isn't about trying to fix or correct something. Meditation is a reminder of what we already are. So when you're practicing, it's not a means to attaining Buddha nature. It's not a means to awakening. It's not a means to being enlightened. It's an expression of your already awakened, enlightened, perfect, complete nature. Isn't that pretty cool? That's a good deal. It's much better. You're not a fixer-upper. Even though you might feel that way, you're really not. It's probably hard to buy that, but I think you could say years of struggle, if you start with this new perception of what you really are, and not see yourself as deficient. So no matter what your physical issues are, or your personal problems, or your whatever, we all have a stack of problems. I'm not denying that. And I'm not saying no one here has any problems. Of course we do. It's part of being alive. It's never going to change. But the way we approach our problems changes when we operate from this different understanding, this correct understanding of what we really are. So doing this, it does require a little faith in this nature. And it's like developing a skill to have a sense of grace within groundlessness. This is a groundless experience, this life of ours. What does groundless mean? It's a real question I'm asking. Without boundaries? No boundaries? Without boundaries? Okay. One song? Oh, I'm sorry. You're just wasting.
Oh yeah, well, I can't hold on to it.
Nothing to hold on to.
That's what I was going to say.
Oh, okay.
Nothing to hold on. Nothing to hold on.
He took his answer. Damn you, Caesar. What else? So groundless. Life is groundless. What does that mean?
Uncertainty.
Uncertainty. Right? It's very uncertain. We don't know what's going to happen 2 minutes from now.
Not looking for like concepts or things to like comfort you.
So developing this skill of having grace within groundlessness is very helpful. So grace, so what does that mean? How could you have grace within groundlessness? What does that mean? It sounds nice, but what does it mean? Anybody take a stab at it? She's remaining open. Okay.
Energetically harmonious.
Okay. Coexisting with things.
Be a sense of equanimity. So
Equanimity.
regardless of what happens, whether it be comfortable or uncomfortable, just being alright with it.
Mm-hmm. So being okay with things as they are, even when they're really difficult. And okay doesn't even mean not feeling anything, right? If something awful can happen. Doesn't mean we just sit there like a rock. Nothing matters. But we can accept that as part of our life experience and embrace it with the same openness that we do any other aspect of life. It's good, yeah, good. And so, I mean, what we're doing most of the time is trying to ensure a degree of certainty and control. That's our top priority. I mean, let's face it, we want to control everything to death, however we can do it. And we do it in all kinds of ways, great and small, let's face it. So if we can learn to kind of not be so fixated on what we've accumulated in our heads. And we've all had different life experiences. Some of us have had very traumatic life experiences, some cushy life experiences, or somewhere in between. We've all had something that's influenced the way in which we see ourselves and the way in which we behave in this life. But consider the possibility that not all of that is as solid as it seems. And from one moment to the next moment to the next moment, things are constantly changing. And you're constantly changing. And the more narrow a view we have of who and what we are, the more narrow our options are. It's like living in a house with stacks of garbage and magazines. You just can't really see clearly. You can't get around easily. You can't even sometimes see across the room because there's too much clutter. So we can start throwing out some of the mental clutter through practice, through meditation, through making a practice out of our lives, not just sitting on a cushion or a chair 5 or 10 minutes a day. It's great too. But every part of your day can be a part of your practice. So being part of your practice simply means whatever you're doing at any given moment, just do it. 100%. Simplest thing in the world, but we're always struggling. Right? So it means we don't have to like walk and do this, bump into people in the street, right? Or we don't have to multitask. Or if you have to multitask, really, if it's part of your job and there's no way you cannot multitask, do that with complete presence, 100%, being fully aware that I am multitasking right now and this is really stressful, I feel it. And just feel it, experience it fully, if you have to. That's all. So, very few of us can have the kind of life where we can just practice for extended periods throughout the day, or sit for hours a day, or take week-long retreats in nice exotic locations. It's not so easy. You can make a practice out of any aspect of your life if you do it. And the more you do that, that's like clearing out the clutter. Right? So every time you see someone on the street, you don't have to make up a story about them. Even look how that happens, right? On the subway, you look at someone and you kind of sum them up in 3 seconds, you have an opinion about them, right? Not knowing the first thing about them. We form an opinion, and that opinion comes from an association, and ideas, and a feeling, however we're feeling at that moment, and we take all of that and we throw it on that person, and then we perceive them one way. Then we see another person and we see them another way. Just even noticing that process is a wonderful practice. Like, who brings up what in you and why? Just observe it. That's all. There's like I think it's a 12-step saying when they say, let go and let God. Have anyone heard that before? It's a great expression. If you don't like the word God, you're rather like, let go and let Buddha. Let go and let your true nature out. It doesn't sound as good. Let go and let God. It sounds perfect. It's the go and the God. So again, the more fixed we are on who we think we are, the more narrow our options are, and the less happy we can be. And then we're kind of faking it based on some outdated version of ourselves. Trying to have a solid sense of identity is like trying to take a cloud and stuff it into a jar. It's that pointless. It's that impossible. You can't do it.
I think the struggle, I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but the most fearful thing is that I do most of this when I'm alone. So when you say pay attention to my alone, I think alone without all that, or I actually wake up, look out the window, and oh, there's one of those. I'm alone, and I think don't like it. Because when I'm with people, and I'm with people a lot, most of the time that doesn't happen. So that's scary to be alone.
Well, that's like practice. A lot of it is when we're sitting, we're being alone with our thoughts in a way. So there's no distraction, there's nothing around us to take us outside of ourselves. And then we're just left to confront what goes on in our brains all the time. Believe me, that's going on in your brain even when you think it's not.
But
you don't
thoughts
know.
can be a trap, because for years I tried to end thought in my head. So it could be a trap too, meditation. For me, it was a trap. I used to follow, and he said never to follow him, Krishnamurti. I was always trying to end thought, and there was no end, and I became kind of vegetable-like at times. So this is a touchy topic, aloneness, meditation.
Yeah, so the instruction is not to try to end thought. The instruction is to simply notice it. And the more we do that, over time they simmer down. That's all. Just nice, gentle attention, right? Without indulging them to death, without slamming the door on them, and just back to your breath. That's the instruction. It takes time. Right? Every other aspect of nature is operating from this, what we call don't know, shunyata, or emptiness. It's like this intelligence at work that fuels the way everything happens in nature and otherwise. But when we're not operating from that and from our thinking minds, we stumble. We don't always know what to do. We see someone who's hungry on the street. I don't know. What do I do? Should I give them change or not? Or should I buy them? I don't know. What if they're faking it? I heard a lot of people fake that and they make careers out of it. That's what we do, right? We don't even know what to do. Alan Watts once said, "What the culture of Zen proposes is that one might become the kind of person who, without intending it, is a source of marvelous accident." Source of marvelous accident. It's just implied like to just allow some spontaneity. Do you ever look at some of the best works of art in the world? Look like nothing special. Like, what is that slop on that canvas? Like, look at a Jackson Pollock painting. Everyone seen a Jackson Pollock painting? Anyone picture one? Looks like someone just pissed paint onto a canvas. But there's something beautiful and brilliant about it, and something very skilled about it. He was no slouch. Or some of the best actors or actresses you've ever seen, the best dramatic performances. It looks so natural and effortless, as if they're not really acting, and you may not even remember, oh, that's so-and-so, because they're so in that role, you forget who you're watching, you forget the actor or actress. So that's what it means to be a natural expression of yourself, to operate effortlessly and naturally and spontaneously. I saw an interview, Oprah Winfrey was interviewing Lady Gaga, and she was asking her about her creative process and how it happens. So Oprah's like, do you hear a lot of other music and what's going on, or what do you do? She said, actually, no, I shut everything out. I don't read newspapers. I don't listen to other music. I don't want to be influenced at all. That's her creative process. We like her or not. She's doing something that's resonating. So she's allowing something within herself to come up naturally without worrying about what's the big trend right now. What are other people saying? That's how we can live. That's a good way to live. Don't worry so much about, everyone's going to have an opinion about your life and what you should do and what you shouldn't do. And I'll tell you, ask 10 different people what you should do, you can get 10 different answers. So good luck with that. I learned a long time ago, no, dude, I don't do that anymore. I mean, maybe an opinion on like I designed a brochure yesterday. So how does this look? Can you proofread this for me? But yeah. And then when I do that, when I try to do what other people want me to do, and I have a handful of times in life, I've been miserable. And I've stumbled, and I've regretted. And for the most part, I live my life 100%. What feels right, what's in my heart, what needs to be done,